He'll certainly fail.
We will turn everyone against her.
The halfway point of House of the Dragon Season 3 just landed, and Episode 4 did not waste a single frame. Is Helaena Targaryen pregnant with another heir to the Iron Throne, and whose child is it? Is Daemon's lie about Sheepstealer's rider the most dangerous secret currently buried inside the Red Keep? Will Ormund Hightower's brutal grooming of young Daemon produce a king or a monster? Where in the Seven Kingdoms are Aemond and Vhagar, and does their silence mean something far worse is coming than anything Kristen Cole's guerrilla warfare can account for? And with Rhaenyra sitting the throne she fought her entire life to claim, why does the crown already feel like it is quietly cutting her head off? Every single one of those questions has an answer, and this breakdown covers all of them. And if this is the House of the Dragon content fans want on the feed every week, hitting subscribe and the like button keeps it coming the moment each new episode drops. The single most important scene in Episode 4 of House of the Dragon Season 3 is not the execution in Tumbleton. It is not Daemon presenting a severed head to his queen. It is the one that contains almost no dialogue at all. The moment when Alicent Hightower moves to help Helaena, with her robe and her hands, find what Helaena has been desperately trying to conceal. The camera holds on both women, as Helaena instinctively moves to cover herself, and on Alicent's face as the reality lands. No words are spoken, no explanation is offered. The silence between them is not an absence of communication. It is two women, in the same breath, understanding exactly what this means for both of their futures. Helaena is pregnant, and in the specific political geography of King's Landing at this exact moment in the Dance of Dragons, a pregnancy inside the Red Keep is not a private event. It is a weapon. The child growing in Helaena's womb, a child whose father is almost certainly Aegon II, conceived in the window before Rook's Rest destroyed him, carries a legitimate claim to the Iron Throne, more direct than any Rhaenyra's own children can offer. If Rhaenyra discovers this pregnancy, and the child is a boy, every argument she has made about the succession becomes exponentially more complicated. She has been holding Helaena alive as a gesture of mercy, possibly as a silent acknowledgement of their shared history, possibly as a political calculation that a dead Helaena creates a martyr the Greens can use. A pregnant Helaena, carrying a potential heir, changes every one of those calculations simultaneously. The show chose to reveal this in the quietest possible register, and that restraint is what makes it so genuinely terrifying. The hope embedded in this revelation, and there is real hope, complicated as it is, lies in what it represents for the show's relationship with its own source material. George R.R. Martin publicly criticized House of the Dragon Season 2 for removing Rhaenyra Targaryen from the blood and cheese scene entirely, calling the absence a toxic butterfly that would ripple through the entire narrative. In a blog post that was subsequently deleted, Martin described how showrunner Ryan Condal had originally indicated that Rhaenyra could still be born in Season 3, and that this reassurance was what persuaded Martin to withdraw his objections, only to learn later that Rhaenyra would not appear at all. Episode 4 of Season 3 appears to be the show's direct response to that entire conversation. The caterpillar scene from Episode 2, where Helaena murmured that it was not the right season, in a line that seemed cryptic at the time, was seeding this revelation weeks in advance. A caterpillar becomes a butterfly. Martin complained about the toxic butterfly. The show appears to be winking directly at its own author, while simultaneously correcting the omission he mourned. However, unfortunately, the timing of this correction creates its own set of problems for Rhaenyra, and the episode makes clear that every solution available to the Queen at this point comes with a cost she may not be prepared to pay. The most likely explanation for Ormund Hightower's behavior throughout Episode 4 is that the Lord of Oldtown is not primarily fighting for the Greens, he is fighting for himself. The evidence is visible in every scene he occupies across the episode, from the bath he takes in the Footley household like a man who believes the concept of property exists only for people of sufficient standing, to the lecture he delivers to Daemon about being fair but firm, to the moment where he receives word that Aemond and Vhagar will not be coming from Harrenhal, and the room-destroying rage that follows. Ormund Hightower calls the dragons abominations in the same breath as he chains Targaryen and tells Daemon there is a taint in Targaryen blood. He wants a Hightower king. Specifically, a Hightower king who happens to carry Targaryen dragon-riding ability without what Ormund considers the Targaryen psychological corruption. He has been raising Daemon in Old Town since the boy was small, shaping him away from the environment that produced Aegon and Aemond, and the episode makes plain that what Ormund has actually produced is not a gentle alternative to his brothers. He has produced a boy who will execute an innocent man because the alternative is disappointing the only father figure he has ever known. Daemon drives a sword into the chest of a man whose only crime was defending his family from a soldier's assault, and Targaryen incinerates the body, and Ormund looks pleased, and the episode ends on those two words. And now, we begin. The show has built one of the most genuinely chilling antagonists in the Dance of Dragons, not through the violence Ormund performs directly, but through the violence he teaches. The evidence strongly suggests that Daemon Targaryen's lie to Rhaenyra about the shepherd's death is going to be the secret that unravels everything she has built. The mechanics of what Daemon does in Episode 4 are precise and awful in equal measure. He rides to the Vale, collects gold from Jane Eyre, discovers through Caraxes' instinct that Rhaenyra is hiding in a cave with Sheepstealer, learns from his daughter that she was responsible for Jaehaerys' death at the Battle of the Gullet, agrees to cover it up, kills an innocent shepherd who happened to be in the wrong field at the wrong moment, and presents the burned head to Rhaenyra as evidence that Sheepstealer's rider, Jace's killer, has been found and eliminated. Rhaenyra receives this with a grief that is visible even in her relief. She wanted to see the man for herself, she tells Daemon. She wanted that specific confrontation, that specific acknowledgement, from whoever took her son from her. Daemon has denied her that truth. He has given her a false closure, built on an innocent man's skull, and buried the actual story of Jaehaerys' death, somewhere in the Vale, where only he and Rhaena know it exists. The most logical conclusion from everything the show has built about Rhaenyra is that she makes almost every decision, every alliance she holds, every mercy she extends, every line she refuses to cross, through the lens of her children. The grief of Jaehaerys' loss is not background noise for her character. It is the specific wound that has been shaping every choice she makes since the battle. A lie this foundational, sitting at the center of how her eldest son died, is not the kind of secret that stays buried in Westeros. The information has to move. Rhaenyra knows. Daemon knows. Caraxes knows something, as the show made visible when the dragon dragged Daemon to that cave rather than away from it. And eventually, Rhaenyra will know. However, unfortunately, the person responsible for the death that triggered this entire chain of events is someone Rhaenyra loves, being protected by someone she loves even more. When this unravels, and in Westeros, everything unravels, the damage will not be external. It will come from inside the throne room itself. The evidence also strongly suggests that the Aemond and Vhagar situation is more dangerous than any other active front in the war, precisely because no one, not Ormund, not Criston Cole, not Rhaenyra's council, not the Baratheons who are already making excuses about their delayed contribution, knows what it actually is. Alice Rivers tells Criston Cole at Harrenhal that Aemond stopped by after Rhaenyra took King's Landing and then left. She does not mention the knife wound in Aemond's back that viewers last saw him collapse under. She offers just enough information to redirect Cole without providing anything that could be verified. What fans know, and what the show is using as a slow-burning dramatic irony across every scene that touches the Aemond question, is that Aemond is not terrorizing the Riverlands on Vhagar as Criston assumes. He is presumably still at Harrenhal or in its immediate surroundings, wounded, possibly feverish, under the care and unmistakably sinister influence of Alice Rivers. Vhagar's nest has been abandoned. Ormund's entire battle plan for holding Tumbleton against Rhaenyra's forces hinged on Aemond's arrival with the largest living dragon in the world, and that plan is now structurally broken. Ormund learns this in Episode 4 and destroys the room he is standing in. Criston Cole invents guerrilla warfare in response to the same information vacuum. deciding to strike from darkness rather than contest Rhaenyra's dragon superiority directly. Every faction is making strategic decisions based on an incomplete picture of where Aemond is and what condition he is in. And Alys Rivers is the one person alive with the complete picture. That makes Alys Rivers the most consequential supporting character in the second half of this season, because whatever she decides to do with what she knows will shape the trajectory of the war in ways that no military maneuver from either side can currently anticipate. While the primary conflicts of Tumbleton play out across the war's main fronts, there is a secondary story quietly accumulating weight that every fan needs to track before the back half of this season begins, and it belongs entirely to Aegon II at Rook's Rest. Tom Glencarney's performance across this entire third season has been the element critics are pointing to as the show's most unexpected upgrade from the first 2 years, and Episode 4 delivers his most humiliating and therefore most revealing sequence yet. Aegon, former king of the Seven Kingdoms, scion of House Targaryen, the man who once sat the Iron Throne, is shoveling human waste from latrines, sleeping with commoners who don't know his name, and kissing a stranger's filth-covered boots to avoid a knife in his stomach. The show holds on this moment without softening it. Aegon pukers up. He does what survival demands, and something in him clearly dies a small death in doing it. The setting is Rook's Rest, where Sunfire's enormous and apparently lifeless body lies draped across the curtain wall, with children climbing over it, and locals charging a copper penny for the privilege of touching a mythical creature. Aegon is convinced Sunfire is alive. This conviction is not played as delusion. The camera does not contradict him, which in a show, this controlled about visual storytelling is a deliberate choice. In the source material, Sunfire does survive Rook's Rest, grievously damaged but breathing. If the show is following that trajectory, what Aegon is standing over and arguing about with an indifferent local boss is not a monument to his defeat, but a recovery that nobody around him can perceive. Larys Strong, the show's most reliably calculating presence, a man for whom every gesture of loyalty is also an investment, remains at Aegon's side throughout this degradation, which is the clearest possible signal that Larys considers Aegon's story far from over. Larys does not attach himself to lost causes. However, unfortunately, a recovered Sunfire changes the strategic picture of this war in ways that nobody currently comfortable in King's Landing is accounting for, and nobody in Rhaenyra's council is looking south toward Rook's Rest to check. What makes Episode 4 of Season 3 the most structurally significant episode of the Dance of Dragons so far is not any single event, but the specific combination of lies, now operational across every faction simultaneously, a web of concealed truths, so dense that it functions less like a plot development and more like a pressure system. Rhaenyra does not know Helaena is pregnant. Rhaenyra does not know Daemon killed an innocent man in her son's name and presented the remains as justice. Rhaenyra does not know that Rhaenyra was responsible for Jacaerys's death at the Gullet, or that Daemon has agreed to keep that secret from her. Ormund does not know where Aemond is, or why Vhagar is silent. Criston Cole does not know Aemond is wounded rather than strategically absent. Nobody in King's Landing is watching Rook's Rest, because nobody in King's Landing believes there is anything there worth watching. The Queen is managing graffiti on city walls, while the man who used to sit the throne is sleeping in dirt 20 miles from her front gate. Every one of these information gaps is going to close in the back half of this season, and because House of the Dragon seasons consist of 8 episodes, and Tumbleton is Episode 4 exactly, the show is at the precise midpoint, where the architecture of what follows must be coherent with everything the front half has installed. The remaining 4 episodes cannot introduce complications of equal weight. They have to be the detonation of what Episode 4 buried. The detonations do not all have to be spectacular. The show has proven in its best episodes that the most destructive moments in this universe are often the quietest. A word spoken in the wrong room, a pregnancy noticed by the wrong person, a head delivered to a queen who wanted something the head could not give her. Ryan Condal's track record with this material suggests the creative team understands precisely when to let a charge sit and precisely when to light it. Episode 4 just finished the placement. However, unfortunately for everyone in Westeros, Several of these charges are now sitting next to each other in the same building, and the building is King's Landing, and King's Landing has never in its history handled pressure well. After everything Tumbleton has revealed, Helena's pregnancy and what it means for Rhaenyra's hold on the throne, Daemon's lie and what it means for the marriage at the center of the Black Cause, Ormund's true agenda and what it means for Daemon, Aemond's unknown condition and what it means for every battle plan currently active, Aegon's possible resurrection at Rook's Rest. The question every fan is now asking is which of these threads detonates first and loudest. Season 4 was already ordered in November 2025, giving the show creative room to let some threads breathe across the back half of Season 3, while saving others for a full season of consequence. The episode count is confirmed at 8, with 4 remaining, the tightest narrative window the show has operated in since the Season 2 finale. The direction from Claire Kilner is precise, the Tumbleton set feels genuinely lived in, and the restraint applied to scenes that could have been louder confirms the team is not treating the back half as a cool-down. The direction from Claire Kilner is precise and unhurried in exactly the scenes that need time, and brutally efficient in exactly the scenes that need to land without warning. Based on everything the episode has constructed, the second half of Season 3 is going to be the most consequential run of episodes House of the Dragon has produced. Now the conversation moves to the fans, and there are 3 debates this episode has ignited that are already splitting the fandom straight down the middle. First, whose child is Helaena carrying? Is it Aegon's, conceived in the weeks before Rook's Rest when neither of them knew he would survive? Or does the timeline leave enough room for a far darker theory? And does the answer determine whether this child is the most dangerous heir in Westeros or simply the saddest? Second, is Daemon covering up Rhaenyra's role in Jacaerys's death an act of paternal love, or the single most catastrophic political decision any character has made this season? Because when Rhaenyra discovers the truth, which she always does, the man who buried it will be her husband. And third, is Ormund Hightower the most terrifying villain House of the Dragon has introduced, not because of what he does himself, but because of what he is building inside a teenager who still looks up at him? And when Daemon eventually understands what Ormund truly is, will that realization come too late to matter? The video on screen covers every other thread fans need to track before Episode 5 of House of the Dragon Season 3 drops next Sunday on HBO.